Okay.
Yeah.
So in short, I've got it recording now. In short, you and I talked together May of 2014. So it's been like 2015, 2016, 2017. So we're talking 3.5 years ago.
That is correct.
Okay. So since then and now, you've done 4 rounds of the protocol.
Yep.
And you get started the last round and you quit after 3 weeks. And so you're like, I got to figure this out. Right. And I had said to you, okay, well, you go from, hating, you got to fix your weight. You need to control your food and all this stuff to, I can't stand dieting. I can't stand the restriction. You go back and forth between being victimized by your weight and food and then being victimized by the dieting. Right.
That is correct. Yeah.
And then I had said to you, so what do you think this whole thing is founded on? And then I want you to, so in your mind, you're thinking, well, I'm not sure if it's the food. I'm overeating. I don't think I'm overeating. Right?
Yes, exactly. That's exactly what it is. I don't see myself binging. I think for the past few years, I say to myself, are you hungry? I eat when I'm hungry. At least I believe I'm eating when I'm hungry. I feel like I'm hungry.
Sure. But your body clearly is stabilizing it somewhere else, right?
Yes.
So the question you have to ask yourself is, what's wrong with that?
Right.
So how much do you weigh right now, if you don't mind me asking?
Yeah, I'm probably about 160.
And how tall are you?
5'6".
Okay, so you're within a normal range. Normal. You're like normal human being size. You're not morbidly obese. You're not unhealthy. You don't have any real limitations.
Yep, I have all my weight in my stomach. I feel like I'm pregnant or look like I'm pregnant. There's these thick sides.
Those are
like
all emotional feelings you're describing. Because there's no real issue. You don't have any issues.
Yeah.
So on a scale of 1 to 10, how do you feel your weight is right now? On a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being terrible.
Yeah.
What do you, if you were to be honest about how you feel emotionally?
Yeah.
How do you?
Emotionally, I don't like that 160. I want to be at 145.
Okay, got it. So emotionally, how do you feel about 160 on a scale of 1 to 10?
Yeah.
What is it?
I would say maybe 7.
And that means it's bad.
Yeah.
Okay. So how would you rate then? How would you rate if you got in a car accident and became a paraplegic, lost, spine injury and couldn't walk anymore?
Oh boy, on a rating of 1 to 10?
Mm-hmm.
Probably a 10.
Because being 15 pounds overweight to you is like a 7. That's horrible.
Yeah.
That's bad, right?
Right.
So okay, so then let's look at how would you rate if you were to, let's just say, get some type of cancer in your eyes and you lost your eyes permanently, you'd be blind forever.
Yeah, you're right. I definitely more than a 10.
Okay, so that's a 10.
Yeah.
So where does that put being a paraplegic?
Yeah. No, you're right. At least I'm alive as a paraplegic.
Right.
Well, yeah, I suppose, to your point, maybe a paraplegic would be more of a 7. Maybe the weight that I am right now, maybe a 4 or 5.
So let's keep on going. Let's imagine that you're in your kitchen and there's some type of flame occurs and your entire shirt, goes on fire and your hair is on fire and you end up with burns and scarring all over your face. Permanent damage, like your hair follicles die when they're burned. You never grow hair back where the burn was. Part of your face is fatty, and so those typically melt very quickly in heat. And so your face is disfigured forever. Where would you put that on a scale of 1 to 10?
Yeah, that's maybe an 8 or a 9.
Okay. So those are real actual issues.
Yeah.
Right? So, and those are just those are pretty, on a scale of 1 to 10, I'm seeking the higher level, like physical issues, right?
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
Can you tell that you're distorting this issue about your weight? Have you ever thought maybe that's the problem? That maybe the issue isn't your body at all. You feel, and I believe you truly feel that your eating is within reason. You're not binging. You're not being extreme in any way, right? You're being normal, within range. So maybe your perspective of how the body should be is cognitively distorted. You're distorting, which is basically what we've just gone through is you're seeing I've completely catastrophized my 15 pounds of weight to being far, far worse than it really is. Doesn't mean that you didn't feel that way. You literally felt that it was a 7 on a scale of 1 to 10.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
So you're cognitively distorting it. One way to cognitive distort things is to catastrophize situations to being far, far worse than they really are. The other way we do it is we magnify things like your thin body, the 15 pounds less. We magnify those things to be far more improving and better than it actually would be.
Yeah.
Right? Like losing 15 pounds. I mean, you need to hear it. You need to hear it now. 15 pounds to you is like the sacred, ancient way to God. Right? It holds life in it. Being thinner is life, is happiness, it's glamour, it's success, it's the way to feel good about yourself, right? And so when someone distorts, and this is why I want you to understand this, when someone distorts what they want to being better than it really is, a consequence to that is that you distort what you have to being far worse than it actually is.
Yeah, gotcha.
So you wouldn't feel like you were a 7 if you weren't fantasizing about the 15 pounds thinner. So you're creating it to be better than it actually really is. You've been 15 pounds thinner and it never was what you actually thought it was. It was always never really good enough. So even if you lost the weight, you distorted what you were 15 pounds ago when you were 15 pounds thinner into being something it's not as good as you thought it would be. Right?
Yeah, right.
So it's all crazy train, right? So when you're eating naturally and your body is naturally residing where it's at right now, okay? At this time in your life, at the age you're at right now, and add to it how often you've dieted and deprived, which directly impacts your hormones, right? And your body's need to hold weight as a natural survival mechanism that's working perfectly, right? How, if you look at the reality of this body, what if its natural state of being is at this weight, is at 160 pounds? And what if, in order for you to reach your fantasy ideal weight that you think is natural, requires you starve permanently to get there and to stay there? So I want you to look at your fantasy weight, 145 pounds?
Yep.
And recognize that if eating neutrally equates to 160, you have to then, what is it going to require for you to maintain 145? Sacrifice.
Yep.
And once you sacrifice your food, how are you going to maintain 145? If it takes a lot of sacrifice to get there.
Right.
How do you think it's going to stay there? So
it
when
hasn't before.
Correct.
Not permanently anyway.
So what you're going to need to do is look at that 145 image in your mind and add starvation to it. Now tell me if it's as magical as you fantasize it to be.
No, that's not the kind of life I would want to live.
So you need to undistort it, because you've distorted it to be fabulous, but you didn't include the chronic obsessive compulsive dieting you're going to have to manage to maintain it. Isolation, fear about food, constantly organizing, compartmentalizing food because food becomes very threatening. The human nature to want to eat now has to be repressed. right? Don't forget to add that to your fantasy goal of 145. Right?
Yeah.
This is the part that I'm like, you never caught this, but no one really does. No one questions their thin supremacy when they come to me like, what's the problem? I'm eating like a normal human and I'm like gaining weight. Like, have you ever thought that your desire to be thinner is the problem?
Yeah.
Not
I've never thought of it that way.
Your body.
Yeah.
Clearly your body's doing just great. It's managing itself. You have this freedom to be neutral with food, which has got its upside. You know, if there's anything you learned from working with me 3.5 years ago, it was that being relaxed with food is incredible. It's very beneficial to your mind, to your overall well-being, to your social engagement. And we're not saying go out and binge every day. We're just saying don't shame food and don't feel bad for eating it and find a natural balance with it, right?
Exactly. Yep. And that relieved so much pressure and stress off of me. And I obviously have forgotten about how good that feels when I don't even worry about that.
But the only problem is if you still hold on to this distorted fantasy of superiority and betterment and 15 pounds, mind you. 15 pounds. That you're positioning yourself to feel bad about your current body in reality. So the question I want to ask you is the life that the body is providing you, the consciousness that it's giving you, the access to experiencing your environment with your eyesight, with your hearing, with touch, with mobility of the body. Think of all that you actually have with the body you're in. And now tell me where it's at on a scale of 1 to 10 in terms of badness. Where is the body you have on that scale?
Yeah. 1, maybe 2.
It's a 0. It's a 0. Why would you make a problem out of nothing? You don't have a problem. It runs on its own. And not only that, but it's providing you awareness right now.
Right.
Like you aren't giving the body awareness. You aren't doing it to the body, are you?
Yeah. No.
You're listening to me because the body is providing that for you.
Yes. Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
So you've taken the life that it gives you for granted.
Yeah, definitely. Everything that it does. Yeah.
Right?
That is true.
And so this is what happens when we become distorted around thinking it should be better than it really is.
Yeah.
You know, where it is what it is. It's good enough for me as long as I have access to witnessing my life. Like I'm witnessing everything. I don't need, what else do you need? In fact, you have the easiest witnessing most bodies have. You know, whether it needs 15 more pounds of adipose tissue because you have starved it chronically in your life. Maybe that's what it needs permanently now because of the chronic starving you did thinking it wasn't good enough.
Right. Yeah.
Can you see why then too, going on the protocol, that is just a radical thing for someone that doesn't have a weight problem to do for a fictitious weight problem, which is why you probably don't last very long on it. Because you don't have a problem. This is like, it's inherent to your unconscious awareness is that you're doing something radical when you don't have an equally radical problem.
Right. Yeah. Now that you put it in that perspective, I definitely see where you're coming from. Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. Yeah, I never even thought about looking at it that way.
I know.
Yeah.
But you kind of have to, right? If you really want out. So if we want to figure this out, how can you do that without addressing your perspective around why you think your body is flawed?
Right.
And it needs to be fixed. You know, that's what I find amazing is if you were to go to someone else, they would have never questioned this. They would have just accepted if she's unhappy with her body, there's something wrong with it. They don't question your distorted way of thinking about it.
Right, yeah. And compared to everything else that is out there. I mean.
Oh yeah, well they're selling a solution and they want you to pay for it.
Yep, forever.
Well, for sure. So they benefit on you taking a perfectly good, healthy, functioning body that has no problems and making it bad. Huge benefits. Huge profits on you actually looking at your body as a flawed body.
Right.
That needs to be focused on and fixed.
Yeah.
As if it is taking away from life. Even though it is the source of light in life itself.
Yeah.
Makes sense?
Definitely makes sense.
What I find fascinating too, and I want you to observe this, is that if you are in conflict with your body, what that does to your freedom.
Gosh, I feel like a prisoner.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
You are super easy right now.
Yeah, all this is coming back from like 3 years ago for sure. I remember this. I'd forgotten, to kind of go back to thinking that way, but it's miserable. It's exactly what you said. I mean, I've done this 4 times, and I get down to that weight, and woohoo, I've made it, and then back again. I mean, this is ridiculous. I don't want to do this anymore, and it's miserable. It's miserable depriving myself. It's miserable obsessing about food. It's miserable trying to make all of these promises. I'm going to go to the gym. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that, and then I do it, and then I don't, and I'm tired of the roller coaster.
Yeah. What do you get out of it?
Nothing. I mean,
there's an illusion that you think you're going to get out of it. So go back to that distorted fantasy of losing 15 pounds. What do you get out of that?
Right.
No, really go into what the answer is. Like what the fantasy you get out of it. What is it that you think you're going to get out of that? 15 pounds of fat loss will do what for you?
Yeah. Well, right now, my thinking is I can fit better in my clothes.
Is that worth the misery of what you're doing? And fitting better into clothes, there's an alternative solution than starving yourself and obsessing over your fitting into clothes that require you starve to fit into. So keep that in mind. The clothes you're describing are the ones that you diet to fit into. So fitting into my diet clothes. Well, don't forget it requires you diet and maintain dieting and continue to diet to fit into them. So is that even a problem?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's not worth it. Yeah, it's definitely not worth it. I feel so miserable, going back and forth, and I'm just tired of it.
So all for those clothes. So what did those clothes symbolize for you? Because there's something symbolic in those clothes. Right? Because you can hear when we speak intellectually about it, that just sounds absolutely dumb. Because you have to, those are starvation clothes. They require you starve to fit in them.
Yeah.
So there's something else you get out of it other than they fit. There's a reason, there's something you have attached to those clothes that you get. What are you getting out of it? Is it a feeling of I'm winning, I'm superior, I'm hot, I've got an edge? Like, what is it that you've attached? To that?
Yeah. No, that's a really good question. And when I think about it, when we talked 3 years ago, I had this image in my head of how I'm supposed to dress in my profession. And so it was really important for me to look slim and be able to wear these business clothes. And it was all about when people look at me, I feel like people make an assumption about you based on how you're dressed. And so if you're looking sloppy, that's a sloppy person. But if you're looking professional, they kind of treat you differently. So that was 3 years ago, and I've since then, with your help, gotten over that. So it doesn't even matter to me. But now I feel like it's a lot to do with my husband. So my husband, we recently really got active in our church, and he's going to become a deacon soon. And every week when we go to church, I mean, this man spends 3 or 4 hours getting his clothes together, ironing, steaming, picking this color, these shoes, polishing. I mean, this is like a whole...
Do you think he's compensating for something?
Yeah, I think that he also has body image issues.
Okay,
Because
that's a compensation for his feeling inadequate at what he's doing. He doesn't feel like he's adequate at what he's doing in that religion.
Yeah, yeah, I think you're absolutely right. Yeah.
So he's overreaching in some other facade way. That's what that means.
Yep.
He's trying to create a facade versus going into the reality of his inadequacy.
Yep, I think you're absolutely right, you know. And so when I see him doing that, I feel like it puts pressure on me to also look a certain way. So when we walk into church, you know, he's looking dapper from head to toe. You know, I don't want to be the sloppy, overweight looking wife. You know, and I feel, and probably nobody cares, but I feel like,
well, it's so counter to what most spiritual work is. It's so counterproductive. It's so counter. What you're talking about is worshiping the idol, not the actual. You're worshiping idols. Yeah. Versus the humility of reality.
Exactly. Yeah.
So it's like, we have a gold statue of beauty. Don't listen to my words because I really don't know what I'm talking about. You know? And there's no grace. I have no grace. So I really don't know how to implement what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And so being real and human and raw and authentic requires you carry grace with you from the idols of society. So it's like, it's understandable that they've actually talked about this, by the way, in studying, because people are leaving religion in droves in the United States. Seriously. And a lot of it comes down to the superficiality of what's happened to religion in this country, and how when people leave, they transfer their spirituality to worshiping the body. So instead of worshiping some system, they worship a different system. So they just basically are bouncing from one ideologic system to another ideologic system. And so by promoting body image in the religion, you're actually saying, we really don't know what we're doing. It's a system that we're grasping onto. This is not going to be good for you to hear. He's not going to want to hear this, because it's going to basically expose some underlying issues that he's compensating for. It sucks.
Yep.
You know?
And for him, that has always been what the expectation is, even growing up as a child. I mean,
it makes you wonder what he's getting out of the religion, if it's actually serving the narcissism. Yeah. Which is why people are leaving religion in droves. Yeah. Because it's become a very narcissistic system.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So for me recently, that is what, because I really thought about this before talking to you, wanting to figure out, where is all this coming from? I was, I think I'm doing fine, and then something happens, and I think that's where it is. And it's not him putting any pressure on me, like, oh, you need to lose weight, or it's
him putting pressure on the facade that you feel you have to accommodate to.
Exactly. Like, I feel, and I kid you not, 3 to 4 hours every Saturday, ironing, steaming, polishing, shaving. Oh my gosh. It's this whole production with just him and, doing his thing. And I feel like, oh my gosh, how am I going to look next to him walking in there? I'm going to look sloppy, and, I feel that pressure, and I got to get out of that. And
that means there's no heart focus in what's going on.
Yeah.
For you, at least. I'm not going to say that about him. I don't know. I'm making an assumption about him overreaching with the way he looks.
Yeah. I would go to church in a pair of jeans and a shirt. I would be perfectly comfortable and fine with that.
If it really is about the heart, he won't care.
Yeah.
No, really, he will not care. Because that to him is, it's not about the image anymore.
Right.
If
that was the case, which I doubt.
But, by you accommodating to his narcissism, you're basically feeding into the legitimacy of that narcissism. So by being real, it will force him to have cognitive dissonance. Not you, him.
Yeah, right.
Because it would be somewhat exposing of the facade aspect of what he's doing.
Mm-hmm.
So if you comply to it, you're enabling it, essentially.
Right.
And look at what you end up having as a consequence.
Yeah.
You're talking to me for some reason, right? Yep. The reason why you reached out, my dear.
Yeah. constantly dieting. You know, I'm miserable. I'm miserable having to try to keep up and fit in clothes and look a certain way. I you know, and you know, Monday through Saturday I'm perfectly fine, don't even care, and then come Sunday I'm back to just feeling this way, and I look around in church and I'm thinking, nobody cares. Like, nobody cares what you have on. Nobody cares how you look, and you know, it's all in my head, you know. But
Mm-hmm.
it's something that yeah.
Well, you have to go into, first of all, don't attach superiority to what he's doing. So that may be where the issue is sparking, is the attachment of superiority.
Yeah.
Really think about that. I am better.
Yeah.
There is a superiority. So if there's superiority attached to it, and you don't have the integrity of the heart driving it, can you see then why you would need to poof yourself up in your mind? So the pride attached to it, which is self-inflated.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you're self-inflating with this position, can you see why you would need to fill up the gap between reality and the inflation?
Yeah, no, I definitely see that.
And so it only will impact you if you believe it is superior. Now you have to be held to a superior standard. And for you, because it's not real, you're reaching for something that is superficial. So it's fake or facade, so I can look like it. So that means I need to be more perfect in my looks, because that will translate to the illusion that I am worthy of this position, when underneath it all, I don't want it, but I have to. It's like, again, it's like what you're drinking the Kool-Aid, and you're supporting everybody else drinking it too, just by not being real.
Right. Yep.
So don't drink the Kool-Aid.
Yeah.
And just stay heart focused, and don't position yourself to be above everybody or anybody, right?
Yeah. Yep. You're right about that. Well,
I could be wrong, but I'm just making an assumption based on the behavior and the overreach.
Yeah, no, what you say definitely makes sense, because I can see that. I see that. There is this perception that, you know, he has, and obviously I have too, and I'm feeding right into it, and it's causing me to be extremely miserable, and he's not going to get it. If I were to talk to him, he wouldn't. Mm-hmm. I've tried in a way, but yeah, he almost gets offended, like, no, that's how you have to look, you know, that's how I grew up, and, you know, blah, blah, blah. And so, I need to work on me and not worry about him. I need to really get out of that.
Well, and if he says that, then you say, what, is there no grace in your spirituality?
Yeah.
Is there no grace for looking like a real person? So is now looking like a normal person a sin? Is it sinful to be real? So you just put a mirror up. Yeah. Just put a mirror up and be like, because I'm real. I'm not going to pretend to be holier than I am.
Right. Yeah.
With something, you know, so I'm going to dress the way I would if I was a normal member. Normal patron.
Absolutely. Yep.
With just as much sin as everybody else.
Right. Yeah. You're right about that.
Yeah. Just humble yourself. It's a really big deal. It's like you get caught up in the pride, and you got to wonder why you would want that, especially when it comes at a real cost. I mean, you have to pretend. It's like creating a role, like role playing in a movie, right? Like you're supposed to be the special ones when you're not. You know, so this might be feeding some form of survival for him. Like a sense of survival, like this is what I'm good at, and now I'm superior in this way. This is how radicalization occurs in religions, is when it serves someone's survival versus so that's serving the animal brain versus the spiritual part of the brain. Mm-hmm. I am not saying that's exactly what's happening, but that could be happening. That's why he's getting caught up in the facade.
sense what you're saying.
So it would be to his advantage for you to be the role of the humble, being humble about it. You know, if you just comply to his narcissism and ego about it, you're not really helping him in any way.
No, I'm not helping myself either.
No, because you end up getting caught up in the it's a lie. You know, and it feels like a lie. Like I'm lying to people. I'm pretending to be something from the outside when on the inside I just feel like everybody else. So I've got to pretend to be holier and better and look like I am there when in reality I'm not. And that's where the insecurity comes in and where people get sensitive and offended, right? Because being offended comes down to your lacking an ability to adapt, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Well, I definitely know that I can, overcome this. All I need to do is just kind of change my thought process because, like I, just said 3 years ago, you helped me through because I had that body image thing at work, and I got over that. I mean, so it's really incredible this mindset, just kind of doing a shift and looking at something else from a different perspective, and
it really helps to see it. Once you see it, then it's like, oh, I don't have to do this anymore. I'm aware of what's going on, and it's all made up. It's an illusion that there is no problem. So so going into why the body has done something wrong, well, it's nothing to do with the body as much as it is it's the lie that you are imposing on it. Like I have to make my body look like something it's not, and I have to look like something I'm not. And so the way you recover is by rejecting what is wrong or fake, and you accept the truth of what you are, and you stay present in that. And you just have the humility to be okay with that, even if others aren't.
Exactly. Yeah, and it's truly amazing how people I thought care about how I look don't even care.
No.
Because when I'm skinny or when I'm overweight as I define it, people still treat me differently. They don't look at me differently. They treat me the same. It doesn't matter to them. So me constantly focus on what other people are thinking. It's amazing that no matter what, they treat me the same no matter what. So I don't even know why I keep going back and forth with this.
Well, it sounds like you have you're not as vulnerable in how you relate to others, but where there still is a vulnerability is in how you relate to your spouse.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yep.
And so maybe this is what had to happen for you to really look at it from that perspective. You've got to be okay that you are not going to meet the this facade that he's trying to promote. And you have to be willing to play the devil's advocate in relation to this, which is it the devil's advocate? Really? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You're fitting. I know, I'm laughing at it. It's like this has been twisted into something it's not, but you're really playing the part of the leper. You're playing the part of you're supposed to be real, not fake. Like there's the humility involved, and if you can be that, first of all, if you're a team with your spouse and he's pursuing this, again, does it serve him for you to comply to his narcissistic reasoning around it? No.
Yeah, definitely not. Definitely not. Wow. This is really an eye-opener for me. I'm going back and thinking, in the past, and this is just all kind of making sense to me, where all the symptom I would have never imagined. That's why I'm glad I scheduled a call with you, because I needed you to kind of help me sort through everything and figure out. And I actually, before talking to you, I thought that maybe these issues I have has to do with deprivation, kind of how I grew up in my family, to where we had set times to eat, and then my stepmother was very controlling when it came to food.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, okay, maybe this is what it is. It's just going on a diet, and then I feel deprived, and I've got to have it, because it was growing up. You ate when you ate, and if you didn't eat, you got to have to wait till the next meal and starve in between. And there was no snacking. You couldn't go and help yourself to food. And I honestly thought, okay, that's where the problem is. But talking to you now, I'm realizing that these issues, especially with my husband and image and how he does, dress, and for Sunday at least, it's been bothering me. And I even remember thinking, even maybe a couple of years ago, like, gosh, why does it have to be such a huge production to have to everything? He doesn't even wear a seatbelt because he doesn't want to wrinkle his shirt and going to church. And I thought, oh my gosh, like, this is ridiculous, and it's making sense now. Like, this is, maybe someone of deprivation that has a part of it, but definitely this body image thing. This is something to do with how I look at him and perceive how he's acting.
Mm-hmm.
And it's played such a big part in affecting me. I didn't even realize that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and how that might make you feel anxiety, like a little bit of anxiety about, and pressure, and how that, the anxiety around your body and how that's pressurizing your relationship with food. And
Right.
So that pressure around food then is reminiscent of where you were when we worked 3.5 years ago together.
Exactly.
It's like, why am I all of a sudden feeling anxious around food?
Right, exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
And that's conscious, right? Wow. That's conscious for most people. They can see that, but they think that there's a problem there. They don't necessarily see how that relates to, well, you don't feel good about your body, and how you distorted it to be worse than it really is, because you're in your mind wanting, there's a want there, to comply to what your husband's doing as support.
Right. Yep. Exactly.
So we have to undistort your perception about the body, because you and I both know you don't have a problem.
Yep.
And again, it's kind of like we went back into, well, it's these clothes I want to fit into. Well, those clothes are meant for church. You kind of connected that yourself.
Yeah. Yep. Because I don't care at work. I mean, I wear what I wear.
Yeah.
And I'm happy with it. I don't even give it a second thought. Whatever I'm comfortable with, I don't wear it for a certain purpose.
Yeah, well, and you remember talking about, if you're going to be valued at work, do you want it to be attached to your clothing?
Yep.
No, you want it to be attached to your work ethic and your quality and your skill set. And if you're not skilled enough, then you should get a different job, right? It's like, be in reality there. And in this case, it's the same.
Yep.
It's like, if you're going to a religion devoted to spiritual growth, does it make sense to be fixated on the facade of the way you look?
Yeah.
Which
you're right.
has nothing to, in fact, that sounds reminiscent of spiritual regression.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the whole purpose is supposed to serve the people, serve the community. I mean, that is supposedly just a religion. That's what the goal is, and his role in the church is supposed to be just that, being humble. And it is. It's this image thing.
And he might not even know he's getting caught up into the illusion of, I am superior, I'm playing a superior role, and so I'm holding myself to superior standards. So he's giving himself less grace and love.
Right, exactly. Yep.
Which is why it sounds like there's it sounds a little obsessive and perfectionistic.
Yep.
Which is a sign of feeling insecure.
Yeah, you're absolutely right about that, because he's miserable too. He'll gain his weight, he'll have his obsessions and eat, and then he'll go on a diet and work out, and then
poor guy.
Go back. I mean, me and him are just going back and forth, and and not even realizing that what we're doing is just
really sucks for him.
Yeah.
It's really miserable. And it's just like, should anybody have to work this hard at a volunteer job?
No,
right?
Definitely not. No.
Even if he was getting paid, it sounds like slavery.
Yeah, it definitely does. Yeah.
So he needs
I
to,
agree.
maybe this is a good,
Yeah.
maybe you should have a moment with him and talk to him about the pride in this inflation of the self.
Yeah.
Or not. Maybe it's none of your business.
Yeah.
You just focus on yourself and let him figure it out.
Yeah. Well, no, he definitely needs help, and maybe just a little comment here or there, because I think you're right. We kind of lost our way in what the whole purpose was of going to church to begin with. Just serve the community, serve people, become better people, and image shouldn't matter.
No, image is
miserable. Yeah.
The image ultimately, and it's often taught, well, if you care about something, you will respect it through your image.
Yeah.
That is ultimately it's when there is a degree of truth to that. Like I'll brush my teeth, I will brush my hair, I don't show up in my pajamas. You know what I'm saying? But there's a point at which there's an overreach. There's a inflation of reality versus an equality to reality, right?
Yeah. No, you're right.
Like he's going to church as if it's his wedding.
Right, exactly. Yep.
And that's not what was taught.
Right.
Essentially, I don't know what religion teaches that.
No, I don't know either. I don't think
you know what I mean? I'm pretty sure Jesus didn't say, or Buddha, or Muhammad, or whatever religion you're in. I'm pretty sure the main head of the spiritual guru in it did not say, you have to dress like a prince or a king to come worship me.
That is true. That is definitely, that was no part of the Constitution. There's no expectations, as far as that goes, Yeah. Somewhere along the way, we've lost our way, and I'm going to say we because, him and I are a team, and that's a really good idea to suddenly kind of mention, geez, have we lost our focus here? We've spent so many hours getting ready, and shouldn't we be doing something else?
Yeah, I love Mother Teresa. I'm not Catholic, I wasn't raised Catholic, but she just, to me, epitomizes what humility is.
Yeah.
Just total, like, under the radar, serving others. Talk about an incredible example of service without it being self-serving.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Yeah.
So if you remove the pressure for you to lose any weight, let's just say the body is the body right now. The only way you're going to fit into those clothes is if you accept permanent restriction with food. So if you surrender that 145 and you accept I'm at 160 forever, go into the permanence of it. How does that feel?
That feels awesome. I feel like a weight has been lifted off my shoulder. I feel like happy. All of a sudden this flush of happiness is just flowing through my body. I'm like, yes, don't even have to worry about that. It feels so good.
Relieving. Good. And then how do you feel about, now how does that change the relationship you have with the body?
Yeah, totally. I mean, you talk about my body, what it's done for me, what it does for me, no matter what I've put it through, and it's still here for me as I sit here talking to you, and I'm like, wow, I have really been abusive to my body, and I really need to appreciate it a lot more for what it has done for me and stop complaining about what it isn't doing, because it's doing exactly what it needs to do. It's keeping me alive, and it's doing what it needs to do based on how I'm treating it, and I really need to look at it that way and be a lot more appreciative and actually worship my body. Your thank you for everything you do, for helping me breathe, for walking, for functioning. And
well, not only that, it's providing you consciousness. Not only are you conscious, but you're also aware. There's an awareness as well. Not just I'm conscious, you're also aware. On many levels. And so you're not doing anything. You're doing nothing. So even your ability to communicate, it's not your ability to communicate.
Right.
It's the body's. It's the body's the body is creating what your mouth is doing right now. You're not telling the mouth to do that.
Exactly.
I mean, just look at the levels of existing, that your entire existence in this space is because of the body.
Yeah.
And what did you have to do with it?
Yeah.
So
Absolutely
to turn and say this body is not good enough and there's something wrong with it. You know, think about what a person has to hold in their mind to come up with that.
Right.
It's very small, isn't it? One way that one way I've described it is what happens to how you perceive things if, you know, you're in a room that is, and you don't know what's outside of the room, right? So you're in this room that has got walls and it's dark. There's no light except for a hole where light comes through it, right? And if you've never been outside of that room, you could see why you would assume that the hole is where light is created, that hole is creating light. Agreed?
Agreed, yes.
So what happens when the walls are broken down is you realize that the hole that you worshipped, because you thought the hole created the light. When those walls are broken down, you realize that the hole was just a filter of the sun. The sun actually is shining bright on everything. It was not the hole that was providing the light. It was the sun that was shining through the hole.
Right.
So do you see how we can fixate on an illusion, thinking that it's true?
Yeah.
Right? Kind of like how you thought that your weight was a 7.
Right. Yep.
And that by losing 15 pounds, that was the hole that was shining. Well, if we get rid of it all, you can see that the sun was shining the whole time. It was never really the weight loss.
Exactly.
Yeah. All we did was get rid of the entire room from existence. And how do you feel?
Yep.
You know, it's like saying, I need the hole to be wider. I need it to be bigger because it'll shine bigger if I make the hole bigger. Well, actually, if we remove the room, you'll be in full sunlight with nothing.
Exactly. That's true.
You thought the hole was the sun, when in reality, it was not. It was actually removing the sun and letting only a little bit in.
Absolutely, yes. Yeah. Oh, that makes a lot of sense. That really does. I mean, this has definitely been an eye-opener, you know, for me.
So what?
Very helpful.
Yeah. So what happens then to how you feel if you are no longer, if you are now in the full sun of day, right? What's the point of making that hole brighter or wider?
Yeah.
Doesn't it seem dumb now? Yeah, it's pointless.
Yeah.
So why would you need to lose weight? Like, what's the point?
Yeah.
And if you remove that need to lose weight, how does it feel?
Yeah. Oh, liberating. Liberating. It really feels just so much less stress. You know, so much less pressure. I feel less stressed.
What happens to your focus?
Yeah. I focus more on what's important.
Yeah, it becomes,
definitely.
It opens up, right? It's like saying, well, my view with that little hole of light was like very small. Whereas if I remove that whole system, I have no constraints. It's like everything is bright now. The entire like space of existence is lit up. So now my mind is free to open to a lot of things. Whereas before, it was only on one thing.
Yeah, exactly. It was only on, definitely. That makes it, that's just amazing. It's amazing how I've been thinking all this time, and just listening to you say that, it just definitely changes my perspective. of everything. And it's just, it's incredible. It's amazing how the mind works.
Right? That's how survival works. When you're in survival mode, it's like tunnel vision. And we superimpose life onto weird abstract things. You know, and there's a purpose for that. So we don't have to judge it. The purpose is, ancient evolution, millions of years or hundreds of thousands of years of creation and evolution working, which is why we're still here today. So, that animal part of our brain and that kind of tunnel vision and abstract the thinking where we superimpose survival onto thinness, right? Whereas you're already alive.
Yeah.
Being thinner doesn't make you more alive, right? That weird disconnect that thinness creates from the body is as if I'm not alive unless I'm thinner.
Right.
And so it takes life and puts it elsewhere. And so you fixate on wherever it is rather than accepting that it's here. I already exist in it. Right? Kind of like the sun is shining everywhere. Well, when you put yourself in a room and you make it only through one hole and you think that the hole is the sun.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's just, it makes me focus, the bigger picture, what's really, that is just so minor. I mean, just, that's just
it's like,
really
and why would you put that filter on when you're aware that this sun is shining and it's not that hole that provides the light, it's the sun shining through the hole, and it's just a filter of the sun that's shining. You only get a tiny speck of light.
Right, exactly. And why even do that? Because it's miserable.
Yes.
I want them
Exactly.
So then I have some questions, and maybe we can talk a little bit about deprivation.
Yeah, hold on a second. Hold on. I'm just checking the time. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, so deprivation, one of the things that I feel like I have issues with, and by that I mean, over the weekend, before I reached out to you, I was starting to feel depressed. Oh, great, you died again. I'm probably going to gain the weight and all over again. So I reread your book, Weight Loss, Apocalypse, and there was a case study in there about the executive wife. I'm sure you remember it. The executive wife who would go to social gatherings, and the first time she did the protocol, she had all mentally prepared this list of all of these foods that she's going to be eating when she gets off the protocol. And that is exactly what I do. I don't actually mentally keep the list. I go and order stuff. I will order from Harry and David's and Wolfman's and you name it. And I have, I'm going to order it and it's going to arrive on here because then I'll be done with P3 and then I have all my stuff set. I mean, I'll go to the store and I'll get my favorite candy. Okay, I'm going to eat this when I'm, after the P3 and I have it. And I don't know, again, I'm assuming it's because I'm in my mind, I've restricted myself.
Yeah, and you feel deprived and punished, so you also feel like it's unfair and punishing and victimized by it.
Yeah.
And so what you're trying to do is you're trying to create a state of equilibrium or balance around it so that you can do it without imploding, right? So you're compensating for feeling repressed.
Yeah.
So you feel repressed, you are being repressed, and so what you're trying to do is feel better about it. So by compensating, which is so funny because the only reason why you would do the protocol is to be thinner. So everything that you're doing with food is actually going to wreak havoc on your body when it's over, and so it's pointless.
Exactly.
It's like, why are you even planning?
Exactly.
It's so understandable. Don't you agree? It's like, no shit. It's kind of like if you were to tell someone they have to forever never have sex again, they're going to kind of go crazy, don't you think, beforehand?
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. So your thoughts that the deprivation piece of it is with exactly that, feeling restricted.
Yeah, you don't want to do it. You feel victimized. Yeah, you feel victimized by it, for sure. Yeah.
Once I relieve my mind, I'm not even going to be thinking about deprivation because, again, I can have anything I want in abundance, as long as I eat with hunger.
Yeah. And you'll notice that it sounds funny. You should be like, this is so funny. It's funny what you're describing.
Yeah, because my husband actually said that to me last week.
Like, what are you doing?
We're just kind of talking, and he said, "Oh, I've kind of noticed. I know you're on your diet thing there, and he says, I kind of noticed that he didn't go crazy and order all kinds of stuff. And I was like, oh my God, and I didn't even think he even noticed, but he did.
The feast before the famine. It's actually very primal too. What you're doing is very natural and very primal. So to me, it's like, yeah, that sounds like you're healthy. It sounds like a healthy animal brain working. It's as it should, relative to a lot of years the human species has gone through famine. Enough that it is pre-wired into DNA, right?
Right.
That's a long time of evolution working. To your benefit, if we ever have to, if famine ever occurs again, literal famine ever occurs again, that's for a good purpose.
Right.
It's stocking your fat stores, it's stocking your food storage over winter months. Like, why would we demonize that?
Yeah.
Especially with food you feel you would want but feel deprived of. So that, again, it's that feeling of being deprived, which puts you in a position of feeling like you're being a victim, or that you're being, oppressed.
Yeah.
Like, I'm being attacked. That's ultimately how it feels when you're on a diet, because we're surrounded by so much food. Why we would go towards the food that we feel are more pleasurable versus why aren't you stocking up spinach? Well, spinach is on the protocol, so why would you do that?
Exactly.
But
exactly. Yep.
So I mean, if you look back, you can go, okay, well, that makes total and complete sense. There's actually nothing wrong with that. That's what you should have been doing. That's what all humans do, and what would be expected. And it's kind of funny.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, it's similar to if I watch my dog bury a bone. It is the funniest thing to me. Like, why would a dog bury a bone? Well, clearly, they feel the need to hide it from someone that might take it, right? It's just the cutest behavior. Well, what are you doing is you're taking a bunch of pleasurable food, shifty eyes, and burying it to hide it for when this was over.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's funny. It's really kind of cute.
It is, I look back at it and I laugh. Wow,
Right?
I'm telling myself, hey, it's gonna be there. Like, they're not going away. Like, once you're done, you can order it at that time. And
exactly.
I gotta stock up, and I've got all my dates, and okay, I can eat this pan and there and here, and
you're the dog burying the bone.
Yep, in the backyard, absolutely.
It's so funny.